In the 2020 NBA draft, the Chicago Bulls surprised a lot of fans when they selected the ACC Sixth Man of the Year, Patrick Williams, 4th overall. Now, despite this not being a very deep class outside of the top 3, Patrick Williams leading up to the draft was projected to be a late lottery pick. In most mock drafts, he was not even close to being in the top 5. But despite the skepticism of drafting Patrick Williams that high, when you look at the rest of the draft class and the players that were taken after Patrick, it's not like there are exceptional players that the Bulls missed out on. And even though P. Will hasn't necessarily lived up to what you might expect from a number 4 pick, not yet anyway, which to be honest, it's way too early to even make that kind of claim. But in any event, this upcoming season is going to be incredibly important for Patrick Williams, and not just for Patrick Williams himself, but also for the Chicago Bulls, and that's what we'll be talking about in this video. So what's going on, everyone? You're listening to Bulls Central here. Hope you're all doing well. So Patrick Williams has kind of started becoming one of the more polarizing players among Bulls fans, kind of similar to Kobe White, although I feel most fans who once thought Kobe was going to be a future superstar are probably now realizing, yeah, he's not going to be that guy. But for Patrick, who was once viewed by most fans as this young player with massive potential, with no ceiling in how far he'll be able to go in this league, you obviously heard the Kawhi Leonard comparisons to now, as he's about to embark on his 3rd season in the NBA, you're getting mixed reviews on Pat from the fan base. On one hand, you still have the fans who feel that Patrick is without question a future star in the making, while on the other end of the spectrum, you have those who feel he's not going to amount to anything in the league other than just being a role player, and that the Bulls should trade him while his value is still somewhat high. Now, to be clear, I am a big Patrick Williams fan. I do not want to trade Pat unless you're getting something that is just way too good to pass up. I do think that Pat has a ton of potential, and I think he's going to be a critical piece to the Bulls' future. Maybe not a franchise-type player, but a big piece for their long-term future. I don't agree with the Kawhi Leonard comparisons. I don't think that was really fair to either player from the get-go, but I am most certainly in the pro-Patrick Williams camp. Now, whether these reasons are fair or not to put on a 21-year-old in his 3rd NBA season who missed most of his 2nd year due to injury, the fact of the matter is, when you're a high draft pick that the Bulls are heavily relying on to take that big leap for a team that is in win-now mode, it is going to happen. Now, let's talk about what's riding on this season for Patrick. And I'll start with the most obvious, and that's that, based on the Bulls' offseason moves, thus far anyway, the Bulls front office, they are relying on the health of their players, and that Patrick Williams, who again, also presumably will be fully healthy, will be taking a big jump this upcoming season going into his 21-year-old year. Because here's the thing, the Bulls, as currently constructed with the moves that they made, did not improve the team that much on paper. You can call that being negative or being too critical. I know some were saying I was being too negative of the Bulls and their offseason moves in the comments in my last videos. I don't really think it's a negative view. It's more so the reality of the situation that the Bulls didn't make any substantial moves to improve the roster, especially as it relates to their rim protection and shooting. Andre Drummond, yes, an upgrade as a backup 5 compared to what we had last year. Absolutely. Goran Dragic, a good vet that can give you some scoring off the bench and even act as a mentor to some of the younger guards. You bet. But these aren't game-changing moves. Now, yes, let's not forget that this Bulls team was one of the best teams in the league when they were fully healthy, really being the number 1 seed as we approached the All-Star break, and actually not even fully healthy because they were without Patrick Williams. So you can say, well, the Bulls didn't really need to make any substantial moves because when healthy, they're one of the best teams in the league. And I would agree with that, except for the poor record that they had against the best teams in the league. But look, that aside, based on the moves that were made, based on the fact that we really have little depth at the 4, a lot is going to be expected of Patrick Williams. We're going to need Patrick's defense in the front court. We're going to need some level of rim protection from him since the Bulls don't really have that in the rest of the roster. We're going to need his offense as really the Bulls' 4th or 5th scoring option, especially with the uncertainty surrounding the health of Lonzo Ball. Like, you're going to need Patrick at a minimum to average 12 points per game this season and for the Bulls to really be competitive. You can't just rely on Lavine and DeRozan to score 30 to 35 points every night because teams started to figure out the Bulls by the end of the season in limiting Lavine and DeRozan on offense, and the Bulls didn't have any other reliable scorers as a result. And I say reliable scorers because while yes, Vucevic averaged 18 points per game, he was pretty inconsistent throughout the season and couldn't be relied upon on a nightly basis, especially with his outside shooting. So you're going to need Patrick scoring, you're going to need his defense, you're going to need his aggression in general. The other thing, and I'm pretty certain this is the case, I mean, aside from the Bulls' ownership being cheap and not wanting to go into the luxury tax, but I'm pretty certain part of the reason the Bulls did not make any aggressive moves this offseason is because they have extreme confidence in Patrick Williams taking that next step that would catapult them into contention. Again, we forget that this Bulls team, like I just mentioned, when healthy was one of the best teams in the East, and that was without Patrick. You add Patrick to the roster taking that 3rd year leap, and that's a pretty good team. That's one of the best in the East. I don't know if I would call it a title team, but it's one of the better teams in the league, especially when we already saw that last season. The other reason why this season is so important for Patrick is that at this point in time, he still has most of the support from the fan base. I know some have turned on the guy, but most fans believe in Patrick and his potential. You have another so-so season where you don't see a lot of improvement, still being pretty timid on offense, not using his physicality to help them in the front court. You're likely going to start losing support from the fans. Whether that's fair or not doesn't really matter. That's just how Bulls fans are. We can be pretty critical of our team and players. Not only that, but Patrick will also be extension eligible by the end of the season, kind of like how Kobe's extension eligible this season, although I doubt they're going to actually reach an agreement, which would make Kobe a restricted free agent by the time the season starts. But this is a year where Patrick's performance could mean the difference in a big payday after his rookie deal. Not saying he's going to get a max extension like a Luka Doncic or a Trae Young, but if he shows out, proves to be a very impactful piece to this Bulls roster, the Bulls could look to secure him and pay him handsomely. And then finally, the other reason Patrick has a lot riding on him this season is because it's become pretty clear, again, based on rumors, so take that for what you will, but it's become pretty clear that in any trade rumor that the Bulls have been linked to, it's been reported that the Bulls have been unwilling to include Patrick Williams in any trade discussions. Now again, we don't know how much truth there is to that, but it wouldn't surprise me, given how much the Bulls have invested in Patrick Williams and sticking to their belief that he's going to be a very special player in the league. And because of that, it's likely the Bulls have passed on a number of trade opportunities to better the team now and holding to Patrick for a brighter future tomorrow. We've heard all the Rudy Gobert trade rumors and how the Bulls were unwilling to include Patrick Williams in any trade deal. At the trade deadline, the rumors were surrounding Jeremy Grant from the Pistons for Patrick Williams was a big topic, but none of that came to fruition, which I'm actually happy with, as I don't think Jeremy Grant would have really elevated the Bulls all that much. But anyway, overall, around the league, it's been speculated that the Bulls are not willing to give up Patrick Williams in trade because of the potential they see in him for the future. And because of that, there is so much riding on Patrick to perform not only this season, but really for the future as a star player, because the Bulls chose not to bring in talent that could have potentially made them a title contender by, say, bringing in Rudy Gobert, which I know a lot of people don't like Gobert's game, but I've said before, you put him on the Bulls with strong perimeter defenders, the Bulls team would without a doubt be a title contending team. He wasn't worth the haul that Timberwolves gave up for him, so in the end, I'm fine with the Bulls passing on acquiring him, but either way, that is putting a lot of pressure on Patrick Williams to be that guy, that player to be a big part of the Bulls' future when you know you had chances on getting win-now talent to compete on this roster in the immediate term, but passed on those opportunities in the hopes that Patrick Williams is one day going to develop into a star. It's a big risk to take, which for now I'm okay with because, like I said, I do like Patrick Williams and his game and see potential for which he has. And sometimes that's part of the NBA business, is taking a gamble sometimes for the future and having it pay off down the line. Could very well come back to bite you, but for now, all we can do is wait and see if Patrick is going to develop into that player that we all hoped he would be. And how he does this season is going to be a good indication of what it means for his future as it relates to his development and the future success of the Bulls. I still have pretty high hopes for Patrick, just hoping he can just stay healthy this year. I would love to hear what you guys think, though. How critical is this upcoming season for Patrick Williams in your view? Let me know in the comments, and as always, guys, be sure to subscribe if you're a Bulls fan, as I do post daily Bulls content. Thanks again for tuning in, guys, and I'll catch you in the next one.